everybody, welcome back to another Big Bad review with Cam of the Big Bad Beetle Bros and Stronger Than Before Power Rangers Zeo podcast. Today, I'm going to be reviewing something that's been sitting on my shelf for roughly a year now that I actually won in a Twitter contest that I've just not, I don't know if I haven't had the heart to or if I just haven't had a good place for it until now. To crack open, and that of course is Zeo Ranger 5, Tommy, the Red Zeo Power Ranger, from the Power Rangers Lightning Collection. This is going to be another one like the Zeo Cogs where I do a real quick unboxing here at the top, and then we're going to actually get into the review. This is the only Lightning Collection actual Power Ranger figure that I own. The rest are obviously the Cogs, the Zap Astro Megazord, and Finster from the Lightning Collection. So this is the first Ranger from the line that I'm cracking open. You can see I've actually got a little bit of dust built up on the box because he's been sitting in my workshop above all of my helmet projects and city car and stuff like that. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and crack this guy open. I'm actually going to grab my handy dandy scissors real quick because there's just one little piece of tape. Boop. And let's take a look at the box real quick while we're here. Again, this really cool vector art with the almost cell shading design here of Zeo Ranger 5's helmet. One of my favorite helmet designs from the early Zordon era. You can see Tommy's head sitting in there up at the top. Again, with that really cool vector art on the back. And demonstrating Tommy and all of his accessories decked out on here. This is one of the characters that only comes with the extended Zeo Saber thing. And yeah, that is, Zeo is one of those lines where they ended up having to kind of backtrack some of the accessories into the Cog releases and stuff like that. Especially for, I know, the Blue Rangers Zeo weapons were only available as a special. This is going to drive me nuts. All right, there we go. Holy goodness. All right. Obviously, unlike the Cogs, and like most of the Zeo Rangers, this guy comes with a clear front so you can see everything, which I prefer in my toy packaging for the most part. Obviously, it helps you to see for sure what you're getting. Make sure that you're not missing any accessories or things like that. So let's just take a real quick look right out of the box. We have the full Zeo Red Ranger in all of his glory. We've got the blaster up here at the top, the fully extended saber down here. He's got his holding hands already on, and then two closed fists, no funky grabby hands like some of them come with, and then a little blast effect that's already popping out that plugs into the end of the blaster. I'm assuming this is the same millimeter port that you could use for a myriad of other figures with accessories like the blaster. And you've got his Zeo Red saber here that I believe does combine with the other Zeo characters' weapons if you get all of them. So that's kind of your collect 'em all order right there. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into getting this guy out of the package and actually reviewing the figure. So let's go. And here we go. All right. So Zeo Ranger 5 in all of his gold bespeckled glory. I really dig this figure. There's a few things that I'm not a huge fan of that I'm noticing now that I've got him out of the box that I think mold-wise were perfected by the time we got the Zeo Cogs, and like accessory and build-wise I think were perfected by the time we got stuff like Finster and some of the more recent figures. Now I know the monster figures from Lightning Collection have been some of the best molds that have come out of the line so far, so I'm not going to hold that to the Ranger molds. But I'm starting to understand where people have said that they've had a lot of QC problems, and also just in general quality problems with this line of figures, especially when in regards to Rangers, who in theory should be the best figures coming out of the line, since it is Power Rangers Lightning Collection. So, let's go ahead and start looking at this guy. I'm going to do a quick overview of the posability and stuff. The red on the helmet is slightly glossier and shinier than the body. That's honestly a little bit show accurate even. So not a huge complaint there. It does feel a little big on the body, but I think that's true of probably all of the figures. The one issue that I had a little bit is that the belt does move on the hip a little bit. So when I took mine out of the box, it was off center just enough. But I do like that it does have the detail there. Hopefully that's focused. Of the little Zeo symbol with all 5 of the Rangers symbols included right there. The belt itself is a really nice accessory. It's really detailed. We've got, again, the little Zeo logo there on the holster for the blaster. And it's got both the holsters, which Zeo is one of the only Ranger teams from at least the Zordon era that had double holsters. They could hold both of their sidearms at any given moment. The molded in circuitry design on the neck and the chest and the arms, forearms, and the boots is very nice. It's very clear. I think a little bit of black inlay would look nice, but I'm not confident enough in my Gundam marker work to do it myself. What does suck a little bit is when you bend out this chest shoulder joint, you lose that detail because it's just a painted gold line here, and it's not painted all the way up to the white of the collar, which is fine. A detail that I really appreciate and that I know is a key feature of the Lightning Collection is that this does look like a suit on a guy. There are little creases and seams down the middle of the crotch here, on the arms. There are wrinkles in the material. There are wrinkles on the collar along the neckline. Wrinkles along, or a seam along the sides of the pant legs, creases in the boot, and same on the gloves. You even get these little grooves on the knuckles of the gloves that are paramount to a Power Ranger cosplayer's glove. If you're going to get a Sentai or Power Ranger or even most Kamen Rider gloves, you're going to need to get the specific brand that have these little grooves here, and there's only a handful of places you can get those that aren't custom made for Power Ranger cosplays. So, with that, posability, basically the same as the Cogs we talked about previously. You're going to get your torso, upper torso movement, and that could go, in theory, all the way around, and it does have a soft ratchet that clicks it into clear positions. And then you also get the ab crunch that goes quite a ways down, quite a ways up. Does not have a hip swivel. That's okay, because we do get, like I said, the torso. The head, full 360 around, because it is on a ball joint like all the other switchable heads. Cannot lean up very far, but just enough to kind of be looking forward. Some dust on there. And can't look all the down all that far, but enough that you could do maybe a kick move or something like that. Soft ratchet on the shoulders goes basically 90 degrees out, and does go further down to the sides than the Cogs do, and I do like that because you can get a more natural resting pose than you can with the Cogs. I'm okay with the Cogs not having a natural resting pose. They're not natural, so that's fine. Arm goes all the way around 360 there, also 360 on the upper bicep, and full bend at the double jointed pinned elbow. Forearms, again at the glove, are not rotating, but the hands are, again, on those little peg systems, so they do rotate quite a bit. The forearms feel a little long. That is just a feature of the gloves. It just makes it look a little awkward, I think, but I honestly think that that is just a design flaw with the Zeo suits more than anything else. As we go over to the legs, you've got bending out not quite 90, basically the same as the Cogs. Can't do a full splits, which Sucks for Tommy. Obviously, that was a thing that Jason David Frank could do in pretty much every iteration of the Rangers. You can bend all the way out 90 forward, cannot go backwards, and then double jointed pinned knees gets the leg completely bent as far as you need to go. Some great posing options there. At the boot, it does pivot all the way 90, or rotate all the way 90 rather, and then the feet can't really go back because of the boot design. You can go back a little bit, not too far, and again, because of the boot design, you really can't go forward. So there's really not a lot of movement at the boot, except for the side to side, which is a huge help with posing. Again, these guys have the ports in the bottom. I do think some figures come with stands with those pegs on them. I think they're blast effects that just kind of happen to be posable stands as well. But that is something that I'd like to get my hands on. I wish they sold maybe an accessory set separately of just blast effects, now that so many figures are coming out with blast effects from both Power Ranger, the Lightning Collection for Power Rangers, and even with Transformers. A lot of the lines have come with really cool blast effects that I feel like collectors would love to get their hands on outside of having to buy specific figures to get specific effects. So, as far as accessories go, let's start to dig into these. The number one accessory that I think everyone's going to talk about, the thing that the Lightning Collection is both famous and infamous for, the human head molds. Now, I will grant, the paint apps on mine for Tommy, great. The no concerns at all, in my opinion, with the paint. I think it turned out really well. The eyes, eyebrows, all that kind of stuff are fine. The lips are fine. The skin tone and everything. Even got a little gold earring right there on the left ear. No problems at all on there. There is a huge discrepancy from one Tommy figure to the next, even just going from the green and white Rangers, or especially the white Rangers that have the long hair, similar style as he did in Zeo, and then going to Zeo Red, get a very different looking character mold. And I know that that's just part of the process, and they're perfecting it as they go. Some of the Rangers look way less like their real life counterparts than others. I think this looks enough like Jason David Frank in the 1996-97 years to work perfectly fine. It's obviously probably at the time one of the best molds of Jason David Frank as a character that we've ever gotten. So to replace the heads on these guys, you just pop the helmets off of the ball joints. It's not a fun time every time, but they do pop right off. This one's a little bit tighter, honestly, than the Cogs were. And then you just pop the human head on. You gotta kind of, whoop, here we go. And because of the hair, you don't quite get 360 movement, and it does fit on there a little tight. But, it doesn't look bad, honestly. I think it looks good. He's got a little bit of an Andros vibe just because of the way that the hair is laying on here, but honestly, that is just, again, a factor of Zeo and the era that it was. But yeah, I like it. I don't have any immediate complaints with it. I do kind of dig the way that the almost shaved side here gives almost a Draken look to it, almost a little bit of maybe foreshadowing of things to come in his character design. But let's go ahead and carefully, nice little satisfying pop. I'm a little worried about pulling on that head mold and and messing it up. There is a slight issue here on the chin. I'm probably going to have to take a file or my nippers and clean up. There's just a little bit of a spot where it came off of the manufacturing mold that it's just not quite smooth on the chin there. There's a little bit of plastic hanging off. Not a huge deal. Totally serviceable. Now, he comes with two interchangeable fists. Unlike the Cogs, you can have him have two, a left and a right fist, which is nice. To replace those, just pull the hand straight out. It's kind of a double, there's kind of two spots where it's going to pull out. So you just pop that out, Just like the head, it's a little tough, and it's going to be tough the first few times because the joints just aren't used to it. So you can rotate the hands 360, and then they also do have a little bit of wrist movement there, which is nice. And that is, again, a soft ratchet, so it's a sturdy hold wherever it's going to be. Now, the weapon accessories. These guys I know have been a little bit controversial because people tend to get them with either messed up paint or completely bent out of shape because they are a softer plastic, almost rubber. Sadly, he did not come with, and the Cog 2-pack did not come with the folded version of this Zeo Saber here. I really dig the molding on here. The sculpting on the weapon is great. You can see the two stages of the kind of telescoping baton and the molding and sculpting on the hilt there as well. And this would slide in here. And of course, the downside is you get the whole saber sticking out the side of the leg, and it really takes up a lot of room, and it's not great. I don't love it. I probably will not display him with that stored like that. It just takes up a lot of room. I'm just not a huge fan of it. But you can slide it right into the holding hand. Again, just like the Cogs, the holding hand is definitely designed to hold a gun. You can see where the trigger finger is sticking out a little bit more, but it holds onto it perfectly fine, and there's really no issue there. So, lot of options there, and Zeo being one of the handful of series that have two sidearms. Of course, you also want to put the blaster in there, and this is where that trigger finger works because the pointer finger is a separate finger than the rest, and you can, in theory, fit the finger onto the trigger. There we go. It is a little tricky, but it can be done. So that's fun. Yeah. It's not the best. I don't love it. I don't hate it. But it works. It justifies the shape of the hand, the mold of the hand. Totally fine. But you do end up with kind of a wonky way of holding the pistol. And obviously, if you don't want the hand to be on, if you don't want the finger to be on the trigger, it doesn't have to be. But it is going to kind of like, there's not quite enough room on the pistol grip for him to hold it without it being on the trigger finger. But to each their own. And then the blast effect just pops on to the end right here slightly. And there you go. I don't mind it. I think it looks great. It's obviously not really referenced from the show. It's not really what the blaster effects would have looked like. But then again, they never were going to be. You can see the nice little laser effect there. I think some of the figures, some of the Zeo line have come with a transformed version of this blaster because it is possible to combine this with the sword weapon and make a different weapon, a more powerful one. But obviously that's not what this is going to do. So, his actual Zeo sword, Zeo Saber, the combining weapon, the ultimate, the main one of the ultimate weapon for the Zeo Rangers. TJ and I actually just got to the portion of Zeo where they are using this weapon, so that's been fun to see. I'm going to kind of separate the fingers a little bit at first just to get the grip out there, and then there you go, it slides right in. Now, this being a very different weapon shape than the other two, it's a thinner cylinder on the handle there, and it's just a little funny because the shield here, where the star is going to stick out towards the front so that you've got the edge of the blade facing the front. A little bit like a rapier. Yeah, it's nice. I like it. It's, again, looks a little funny because the hand is very clearly designed to hold, not only hold a pistol, but hold a pistol and the one finger go over the trigger. Now, the other holding hand for the left hand is not like that. So if we pop that hand back off and we switch to the holding hand again, the trigger finger is not detached from the rest of the hand. So when it comes to holding either of the swords, it's honestly a little bit harder to fit this guy in here. But as far as putting this one in, sliding it in from the top, and fitting it in there, it looks and feels more natural and fits really well. Now, for storing the blaster, it's going to go in this holster here, and I think that does look really natural. It fits well. It's not in the way, unlike the sword when it's stored. I think it works great. There are on Thingiverse and a few other places, some folks have made 3D models and 3D prints of this saber in the stored mode with it shrunk down. It fits in here better, looks nicer, all that kind of stuff. I know that there are people who sell those on Etsy. I would probably honestly suggest getting one from someone on Etsy if you were going to do that, rather than trying to print it yourself, especially if you don't have a really nice resin printer. Because, like, for instance, my Ender 3 Pro is not going to print something that small with that kind of detail, and it's just not going to look great, and it would just look better to either find the Rangers or figures like the Cogs that come with these, or get one from Etsy or someone like that. But that's all the accessories that this guy comes with, and I think it comes out pretty great. Obviously a very different figure from, say, Finster or even the Cogs. He does obviously scale perfectly with the Cog figures here. They look great together. It really is like a nice set, I think, to be able to have all these guys. And like I said, the Cogs are a great army builder. I do think I prefer the Cogs to Zeo Red here, and that is totally just me. But I just think they look together. They look great together as a set, and there's a lot of display potential here and a lot of play value that I think kids buying these would get, and of course adults too. But yeah, I think that this is a great little figure. I'm glad that he's the one Lightning Collection Ranger figure that I have, and again, just like with the Zap Megazord and a few other things, I really don't feel the need to get more. There's not really a Ranger that could come out except for Jungle Fury Wolf Ranger that I would want to get, because there's not really a Ranger that I identify as like my favorite character. I'm really glad that I got Zeo Red when I did. Glad that I've had him sitting around, especially now that I have the Cogs, and now that we're doing the Stronger Than Before podcast. It's just a perfect timing of events. But with that, you can find me and anything else that I'm doing on projectlouder.net. Search Big Bad Beetle Bros or Stronger Than Before, a Zeo Power Rangers rewatch podcast. You can find anything that I do on social media at Big Bad Beetle Bros or Beetle Bros Pod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Same thing for Zeo. For Stronger Than Before, you can find us at Stronger Than Before Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And you can, of course, find more Beetleborgs, abridged episodes, reviews, and all sorts of stuff, especially our adventures out to Hillhurst and Charterville in California, right here on YouTube on our channel here. So if there's other characters that you think I got in my collection, or if you'd like to see maybe a collection review of just my Beetleborgs stuff and B-Fighter stuff that I have accumulated over the years, I have quite a bit roaming around. Actually, if you kind of roam the camera up here, you can see my back wall there. But I've got a lot hanging out, and I am pretty much done collecting Beetleborg stuff at the moment. So if there's anything like that you guys want to see from me on this channel, please let me know in the comments or shoot me a DM on social media. And of course, as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in and for checking out the previous things. Please hit like, hit subscribe, ring the bell notification if you want to be notified anytime new videos drop and all that good stuff. So thank you so much, and we will see you next time.